Hello, I'm Regular Zach, and today we are doing a full set review for Aetherdrift. So I'm going to just talk about the white cards in this video, and we are talking about all of the cards in the context of limited, so that's sealed and draft. Now, we're going to be giving all these a letter grade. We're just looking at like the regular letter grades A, B, C, D, and F. And that rating scale is fairly simple. It's just A's are awesome and bombs that you love to have, and that's what you hope to open in your packs. B's are cards that pull you into those colors, so if somebody passes you those cards, you start to take them, and obviously those are cards that you're looking for. C's are like totally solid. These make your deck all the time, but you're not really excited about them, but they're there. D's are their cards. Sometimes you got to play them, but you really hope you don't have to, and they're just kind of there at the end of the draft, and maybe they sneaked their way into your deck if you had a pretty bad draft. And then F's are cards that you just never, ever want to put in your deck. Like, you actively just should not put in your deck because it makes your deck so much worse. All right, so we're going to go through this. This is the way that I think about Magic cards most of the time. So we'll do the commons, then uncommons, rares, and then mythics. And I'm starting from lowest mana value to highest, essentially. So let's start off with our first card, which is Brightfield Glider, which is a single white for a 1/1 creature possum mount. It has vigilance. And it says, whenever this creature attacks while saddled, it gets +1/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. And it is the saddle cost is 3. So you have to tap a creature with power 3 or greater to give it that ability. This card, it seems fine. I mean, I think there are some white, like aggressive white decks that might be interested, but I can only see you wanting to saddle this if you have like a pilot around, because they can saddle things with like power 3 essentially. I don't know. This looks like a C, like a pretty solid C. You're probably not super excited, but you know, maybe there's some of your start your engine decks that might be helpful to give it flying. But if this just had flying, like a 1/1 with flying, I would be so excited. But because it's not, meh, C. All right, next card is Light Shield Parry, which is a single white for an instant. It says target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and it has cycling for 2 colorless mana. This, or any color mana, sorry. This card seems like a, you know, bread and butter. This will make it into decks when you start attacking into people. You'll be worried about single white. You'll probably see this very often, because if it's not good in any situation, you can just cycle it away, which is really helpful. But still, it's just a C. This isn't really exciting. I'm not going to look at this in a pack and be like, oh, sweet, white's open. You know, it's just, this will make your deck. It's fine. It's a C. All right, next card is Light Wheel Enhancements, which is a single white for an enchantment aura. It says enchant creature or vehicle, and it has start your engines. So this is our first start your engines card. So what that says is if you have no speed, it starts at 1, and then it increases once on each of your turns when an opponent loses life with a max speed of 4. So this is a 1 mana card that starts your engines. However, you do need something else on the battlefield to do that. So you can't actually start your engines on turn 1. The rest of the card is just enchanted permanent gets +1/+1 and has vigilance. And then it has the extra ability of max speed. You may cast this card from your graveyard. So this is pretty cool. This is also the first time we're seeing this start your engines mechanic in this like racing set. I do like this card. I don't know how easy it's going to be to get max speed, but knowing that you can play this on something early, get your like engine started, attack in a few times, and then maybe your creature dies or it trades off, and then you can play this later to buff up one of your like vehicles. That's pretty good. You know, I kind of like this. I still don't think I'm going to be super stoked on getting in there. I do want to start my engines early, but the fact that you need another card to put like this on, and then you still have the situation of like, if you try to target your thing and they kill it, then you just lose out on the whole turn. You don't even get to start your engines. It's still just a C. Just like, I think this will make your deck, but once again, I don't think you're excited to play this card. All right, Collision Course. Here we go. So we got 1 and a white for a sorcery. It has choose 1. Collision Course deals X damage to target creature, where X is the number of permanents you control that are creatures and or vehicles. And then it also could destroy an artifact. So 2 mana, destroy a vehicle. Okay, that's not so bad. I like that. Also destroy one of your opponent's creatures when you have a bunch of vehicles out, or like some creature tokens or something. I think this is good. Sorcery pulls it back quite a bit, so I'm not super happy with that part. But C plus, like this is a card that you'll be like, oh sweet, okay, we can definitely have this card in our deck. We're excited for that. So C plus for the collision course. Moving right along, we have Interface Ace, which is 1 and a white for an 0/4 artifact creature robot pilot. It says this creature saddles, mounts, and crews vehicles using its toughness rather than its power. Okay, so it can saddle things for like saddle and crew things for 2 mana. That's pretty good. And then whenever this creature becomes tapped during your turn, untap it. And this ability triggers only once each turn. So this creature can crew 2 vehicles or saddle mounts and things. That's pretty nice. I do like that quite a bit. It does need other things to be good, however, but being able to crew 2 different vehicles, I don't know, I like that. I think it's good. It also has the ability of like, there's a lot of vigilance in the set, it seems like. So being able to crew your vehicle, attack, and then if you're if something has vigilance, or like this card, for instance, can also crew something on your opponent's turn. That's pretty cool. But ultimately, I do think that this kind of comes down to a C. We'll see if it's able to do some more work if we're like have so many vehicles and we need to crew a bunch of things. But that just tends not to be the case. But 2 mana crew 4, that's actually pretty helpful. Because yeah, I think it's going to be kind of difficult to get cards that will be able to do that for such like a cheap mana cost. All right. Next up, we have Leonin Surveyor. It's 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature cat scout. This has start your engines. This is what I'm talking about. Here we go. All right, a 2 mana 2/2 starts our engines on turn 2. It also says during your turn, this creature has first strike. This is a 2 mana 2/2 first strike that starts your engines. Your opponent is not going to want to block this thing. You're going to like get up to max speed really quickly. And then it has this other ability. When you get to max speed, you can pay 3 and exile this card from your graveyard to draw a card. Now, there is like a whole cycle of these cards that have this ability in your graveyard with max speed. I think all of these are pretty sweet. I like this card a lot. This is a B minus. Like, great card. I want a lot of these in my aggressive white decks. Yeah, I just love this. All right. Next card is Spot Cycle Scouter. It's 1 and a white for a 3/2 artifact vehicle. And it says when this vehicle enters, scry 2. And it crews for 1. Okay. Scry 2. Crew 1. I mean, I don't know. How excited am I going to be about this card just in general? I don't know. Scry 2 is kind of nice. Probably just a C, though. I'm not super stoked on this card. All right. Daring Mechanic is 2 and a white for a 3/3 creature human artificer. And it has an activated ability for 3 and a white. You can put a +1/+1 counter on target mount or vehicle. And you can just do this whenever. We've been getting a lot of abilities like this that only like trigger during your turn or at sorcery speed. But 4 mana is a lot. This is definitely filler. This is like a C card for sure. So a bunch more Cs. Lotus Guard Disciple, which is 2 and a white for a 2/2 creature bird cleric with flying. All right, so this is a Windrake. When this creature enters, target creature or vehicle gains lifelink and indestructible until on a turn. All right, sweet. This card, I think, is awesome for our like aggressive white decks. Being able to like rumble and like go in, and this for sure is getting max speed, or not max speed, but it helps you get your speed, right? Like you want like on turn 2, you play the start your engines first striker, then you get to play this. Even if your opponent does like have some sort of block, well, I guess it has first strike, so it doesn't even matter. But in a situation where you're also just maybe crewing your 2 mana vehicle or whatever, this card giving it indestructible and lifelink, like your opponent doesn't want to block that. So you're going to get speed with this, and then it has flying, so you get more speed. I don't really like this. C+. Let's give a C+ to this card. All right, next card. We are looking at Voyager Quick Welder, which is 2 and a white for a 2/4 artifact creature robot artificer. And it says artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. I don't know. There is like a blue-white artifact deck in this set. So this card definitely fits into that. However, I'm not always super excited about these cards that make your other cards cost less. They don't seem to either stick around or do all that much. 3 mana 2/4. I mean, I would like my 3 mana cards to be able to crew bigger vehicles, and 2 power is just not a ton, but I guess it does block. It's an artifact. But, you know, it's a C. It's whatever. Brightfield Mustang is 3 and white for a 3/3 creature horse mount. It says whenever this creature attacks while saddled, untap it and put a +1/+1 counter on it. And it has saddle for 1. Saddle 1, awesome. Almost everything can saddle this thing, which is really, really helpful. But ultimately, like a 4 mana creature, it does get bigger, and so it kind of has a bit of a win more feel to it. Like a C-. I'm not like that super excited about this card. C- D+. Like I'm not. I can see this going pretty late in packs. All right, Swift Wing Assailant is 3 and white for a 3/3 creature bird warrior. Has flying. It also has start your engines. Okay, so we've seen 2 commons that have start your engines. So maybe this mechanic is a lot harder to get started than I thought. It's a 3/3 with flying, and then at max speed it gets +0/+1 and has vigilance. So a 4 mana 3/4 vigilant flyer. Okay, that's like a big body for 4 mana. I don't know. I would like to have that going. The fact that you'd have to possibly start your engines on turn 4, though, feels like that's not exactly what we want to be doing. It does feel very filler. Another C. There's so many C's in these white commons. Broadcast Rambler is 4 and white for a 5/4 artifact vehicle. And it says when this vehicle enters, create a 1/1 colorless stop door artifact creature token with flying. Has crew 1. Okay, this is pretty interesting. So this is a vehicle that makes a 1/1 token that could also crew the 5/4. So you get to be in the situation of like, okay, on the board, I get to play this card, I get a 1/1 no matter what. And then if my opponent can't block anything, I just get to attack my 1/1 in the air. That's great. Or if I need to like rumble in the ground, I can just use the Thopter to crew the 5/4 and attack. Sweet. Like, that's pretty awesome. It is 5 mana though. So they're learning that like giving you just tokens or stuff on your like 3 mana cards is like a little dicey. So 5 mana for this, I think that's going to probably be a pretty tight spot to get things in. This is kind of similar to like the Brightfield Mustang, where it's like 4 and 5 mana. There's only so many cards you can actually play in those. But this one seems decent, but still, once again, I think we're just giving this a C. I'm not like obsessed. All right, Ride's End is 4 and white for an instant. This spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a tapped permanent, and then just says exile target creature or vehicle. Nice. So if your opponent is crewing things or attacking you with their vehicles, if they don't have vigilance, like I said before, there does happen to be a bunch of incidental vigilance through the set, so that is not to be forgotten. But things will be tapping. You will be crewing vehicles. Now, is exiling the crewer of the vehicle the thing we really want to do, or exiling the vehicle? That will have to depend, I think, on the situation. But things are going to get tapped a lot. So this is often going to be 2 mana. And we get to exile? Yeah, B-. Like, yes. I'm going to look at this card and be like, sick, we got some Ride's Ends. Like, this is what we're talking about. So that's the end of all the commons, but we're moving into the uncommons here. We're going to start with Nesting Bot, which is a single white for a 1/1 artifact creature robot. Start your engines! Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. A 1 mana card that starts your engines that has power. Yes. When this creature dies, you create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. And at max speed, the creature gets +1/+0. So it's a 1 mana 1/1, but it starts your engines immediately. I think that is like not to be forgotten. There are like the white-black deck cares about. There's a lot of things that care about start your engines, and almost all of them have a max speed clause in all those things. But I think this card just gets you on the board early. You can even trade this off and you still get a creature that gets to like get in there and try to keep your speed up or crew different things or whatever you need to do. And later in the game, if you have max speed, a 1 mana 2/1, that's not super exciting. I think the max speed part of this is just kind of like, fine. But also an artifact that dies into another artifact for the white-blue decks. I don't know, this card seems sweet. I'm like thinking C+ on this card for sure. Like I think it's gonna take a lot more to it's gonna be more important to start your engines early. So this card's great. I'm happy with that. All right, Canyon Vaulter is 1 and a white for a 3/1 creature core pilot. It says whenever this creature saddles a mount or crews a vehicle during your main phase, that mount or vehicle gains flying. Flying? Yeah, okay. For sure. I want my creatures to have flying. I want my vehicles to have flying. Most of them are overstated because you have to tap something. I will say the big thing about this card, like giving our mounts and our vehicles flying, awesome. Love it. But a 2 mana 3/1 that specifically wants to be crewing things is what I want to be doing. I want to have a 3 power creature that costs almost nothing. Like the most power I can get for these vehicles, the better. And as I go through some of these like vehicles as we're looking at them, I'm pretty sure the cutoff point is 3. So crew 3 is the amount that the pilot tokens take to actually crew something. So they're 1/1s that get like they can crew things with power as if they had power 2 greater. So crew 3 is kind of like the threshold of like, all right, crew and mount 3, boom, that's where you want to hit. And I think the best vehicles and mounts are going to be around 3. Because once you get a little bit higher than that, you're crewing with multiple creatures, and I don't love having to do that. So this card seems sweet. Giving flying, don't underestimate this. I think this is like a B-. Like, this card seems awesome. All right, Gallant Strike is 1 and a white for an instant. Destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater, and it has cycling for 2. Okay. 2 mana, kill something big. Like, you do have to wait to the instant when your opponent, like, crews their vehicle. But, like, this kills so many bombs. There are going to be situations where it's just sitting in your hand and you're like, oh, I can't kill something with toughness 4 or greater. Maybe the creature's like a 5/3, and you're just like, oh, come on. A 5/3? This is so annoying. But then it has cycling. So you just cycle it away and get something else. I don't know. This is a B. Like, I like this card. And I think there's going to be a lot of big, beefy creatures we're going to have to kill. And 2 mana for it. Mwah. Love it. All right, moving on. Right along, we have Glory Heath Lynx, which is 1 and a white for a 2/3 creature cat mount. All right, 2 mana 2/3. All right. It has lifelink. Okay, 2 mana 2/3 lifelink? All right. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And the saddle cost is 2. I don't even think I need to saddle this card. A 2 mana 2/3 lifelink is just something I'm already interested in. Like, I'm interested in a 2 mana 2/2 lifelink. The fact that this has extra toughness, okay. I like this card. I like this card a lot. Being able to get the planes is a nice thing, and there might be situations where it does really come in handy, but ultimately, I don't know. I think this is pretty good. I'm gonna give it like a B-. You know, it's not. I'm not obsessed with it, but it might be the aggro player in me, but I like a 2 power 2 mana creature that has lifelink. Like, I'm gonna like it every time. All right, moving right along, we have Sundial Dawn Tyrant, which is 1 and a white for a 3/3 legendary artifact creature construct, and that's it. It's just a 2 mana 3/3 legendary vanilla creature. It does happen to be an artifact, so that might be something. It's also a 2 mana 3/3. So, okay, once again, it has like the crewing potential of stuff. It's overstated, 2 mana 3/3. I like this. We don't want very many of these. I think this card can make it in your deck, but I don't think we're going to be super excited about it. There is a whole cycle of vanilla legendary creatures. There's something about Muragonda that, like, it cares about creatures with no abilities, which is part of the thing. But, like, I don't know if that's like good or fun. So the fact that it's 2 mana for a 3/3, just its stats, I'm gonna give this a C minus. Like, this will make it into your deck. But like most of these, I'm feeling like, are these D's? Like, I don't know. At least it only costs 1 white pip. Like, okay. But yeah, I'm not obsessed with this. Moving right along, we have Air Response Unit, which is 2 and a white for a 3/3 artifact vehicle with flying and vigilance, and it has crew 1. Okay, sure. Yeah, it's a flyer. It's, the crew cost is as low as it can possibly be. It also has vigilance, which I really like. Being able to attack with this, like if you have 2 little dorky tokens, you get to attack with it and you can block with it. Yeah, I think this is like a C plus. Not like incredibly high, but like, yeah, I'll play this card for sure. Cloudspire Captain. All right, 2 and a white for a 2/3 creature human pilot. It says mounts and vehicles you control get +1/+1. All right, so we got like a vehicle lord. That's great. And this creature saddles, mounts, and crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. So this card specifically does get to pilot like crew 4 and saddle 4 cards, which is the point when we start to unlock greater abilities. But being able to do it with 1 creature is awesome. I think this is pretty interesting, but definitely the fact that it's a lord, the vehicles are already pretty big, so this just makes them bigger and better. I like this card a lot. This is a B. I will want to take this early. This pushes you into that like artifacty deck or mounty deck, whichever, if you're going like white green or white blue. Yes, Cloudspire Captain, that's a good card. I like that card. All right, we have Roadside Assistance, which is 2 and a white for an enchantment aura. Enchant it a creature or a vehicle. All right, this one's kind of interesting. So when the aura enters, you create a 1/1 colorless pilot artifact or pilot creature token, not an artifact. This token saddles, mounts, and crews vehicles as though it had power greater or 2 greater than it already is. So it crews things with 3, or that's what we need to know. Enchanted permanent gets +1/+1 and has lifelink. All right, so we kind of get to be in the situation where I'd probably want to put this on a vehicle. Like putting it on a creature does seem nice, but it's a little bit more vulnerable. Maybe putting it on a vehicle seems a little bit better. But then you also get a creature with it. So Roadside Assistance is nice because you target your vehicle. Your opponent probably doesn't have a way to blow it up instant speed, just like kill an artifact on the side. Good to put that down. You get the creature. And I'm going to say it again, like crew 3 on your vehicles. That's what you're going to want, because then you get to immediately crew your vehicle and attack. Okay. Yeah, this is pretty cool. It does have some weird use cases or whatever. And it does have like an aura problem, as they always do. But yeah, this is like a C+. I like this card. All right, we have Alacrian Armory, which is 3 and a white for an artifact. Just an artifact. All right, not a vehicle, not nothing. It says creatures you control get +0/+1 and have vigilance. All right, so that vigilance thing coming back up does save you from some of the common removal here. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose up to 1 target mount or vehicle you control. Until end of turn, that permanent becomes saddled if it's a mount and becomes an artifact creature if it's a vehicle. All right, this one is tough. This is one of the first ones that's kind of funky. So this can either be like pretty good or do literally nothing. That's why I'm pretty in the middle of the road with this one. I think I'm going to have to see it do work, but being able to just animate any of your vehicles every single turn is pretty nice. It also gives them vigilance, so it basically skips one of your crews that you have to do. You always get to attack and then you can block, and it gives +1/+0 and vigilance. I think I originally had this as a C, but I've been talking myself into it. I think this is a C+. I don't know if we're going to move right into the deck afterwards, after seeing this, but yeah, we can give this a C+. I like this. It's kind of on my radar of like, is this going to work in the deck? That would be really cool if it did, but I'm not super sure. Here we have Guidelight Synergist, which is 3 and a white for a 0/4 artifact creature robot artificer. Artificer. It has flying. And it says this creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. All right, so this one looks super exciting. And I think it is. This the fact that this card has flying is the biggest thing. Because it already, just on its face, it's a 4-mana 1/4 flyer, and then for every artifact you have, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. This obviously has to be focused around some of the artifact decks, so we're talking about white-blue almost specifically, because it cares like not very much about mounts and things. I don't know if this is really a trap, but we also get to make a bunch of random Thopters and a bunch of servos out of nowhere. In the right deck, I think this is definitely a flag for me. So like B minus probably for this card. That's where I think it's going to hit. It also kind of stonewalls a bunch of stuff. So I don't know. I like it. Pride of the Road is next. It is 3 and a white for a 2/5 creature zombie cat warrior. It has vigilance and it has start your engines. All right. So we kind of get a lot of like cheaper cards and more expensive cards that have start your engines. So we'll see if this one pays off. All right. 2/5 vigilance, start your engines, and at max speed, it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature or vehicle you control gains double strike. So it doesn't do a whole lot until you have max speed, because a 4-mana 2/5 with vigilance, yeah, you do get to attack a lot of the time, but I think there are a good amount of 2/3s in this format, and you can kind of just block. But 5 toughness is pretty good. I don't know. I'm gonna give this like a C+. I do love cards that say double strike on them, and in aggressive decks, like if this is the top of your curve, I think that's pretty nice. Being able to come down, especially if you already have max speed, that's sick. You slam this down, give something double strike, get a huge attack in, and then this comes in for 4 damage every turn. Okay, sure. All right, next we have Tune Up, which is 3 and a white for a sorcery. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If it's a vehicle, it becomes an artifact creature. Just forever? Okay, so this is like Zombify in white, but you can get vehicles and they just stay creatures? Okay, all right. This is pretty fun. I don't know how much of graveyardy stuff we're going to have for white, but like if your artifact gets destroyed or something, you get to bring it back and it's just there forever? Not there forever, but sorry, it's there as like a creature? That's pretty sweet. This is probably one of the reasons why the white like removal spell exiles. So with that, I think this is possibly a little bit of a trap. Zombify is not always the best card. 4 mana is, is kind of cheap. We've gotten a lot of like reanimation cards that cost 5, but I don't know. This is really interesting with the vehicle thing. But let's just say what this really is. This is a C. It will go in your deck, but don't jump on this too early. One of these seems good, and then if you have more than one, are we happy about that? I don't think so. I don't know. Unswerving Sloth is 3 white for a 5/5 creature sloth mount. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, it gains indestructible until end of turn. Untap all creatures you control, and because of that ability, it costs 4 to saddle. So that's like 2 creatures you have to use to saddle this card. But making your 5/5 indestructible when you're attacking, this thing is really annoying. And especially if you're ahead. If you're behind, still a 5-mana 5/5 is like, we're not really stoked on that. We really want to be ahead with this card. But again, is this the 5-mana thing we want to do? It could be. But I think, again, like this is probably a C. It feels like it's going to be really exciting, but I want to be attacking with maybe a bunch of things. And sure, this gets indestructible, and it is like an issue. But, it still has to tap when it attacks. And we can exile it or destroy it or before it gets to getting indestructible. I don't know. I don't know. It's a C. I think it's a C. Like, it doesn't do something immediately. I'm going to be excited by this, but you could deal with this card. Detention Chariot is 4 white white for a 6/6 artifact vehicle. It says when this vehicle enters, exile target artifact or creature an opponent controls until this vehicle leaves the battlefield. All right, it is 6 mana, but we do get to do something immediately when it comes down. It also is only crew 3, so pilots crew this thing. That is better than like the last card. Crew 4 is one of the reasons why I'm not super stoked on this. But crew 3, that's what I'm talking about. For a 6/6, it also gets rid of something. Also, if it's early in the game and you have this card, you can cycle it, and then you might be able to tune up reanimate this thing. Like, that's the dream. You cycle this card, you tune it back up, and you steal something. Like, well, you don't steal it, but you get rid of it. You know what I mean. I like this one a lot more. This is a B. I would be much more interested in going into this kind of thing. Even though it's just a vehicle and not a creature on its own, I like this. I like it a lot. Affect the board. With that, we are moving into the rares. So first rare is Basri, Tomorrow's Champion, which is a single white for a 2/1 legendary creature human knight. It has an activated ability, which is white. You can tap it and exert Basri, and you create a 1/1 white cat token with lifelink. Okay, so you have a Savannah Lions, essentially, 1 mana 2/1, that you can make more cats with if you exert it. All right. It also has a cycling ability, which is 2 and a white to cycle it. And it says, when you cycle this card, cats you control gain hexproof and indestructible. All right, so it does spit out a bunch of tokens. Whether we're going to have time to be able to exert every turn or every other turn or when you can to make the cat tokens, I don't know, it does spit out a bunch of them. They are lifelink tokens, so that's kind of nice. I think ultimately this is a B. It's not like crazy amazing. Like if you get this, it's cool, right? The cycling ability kind of does little to nothing. There are some cats in the set. We already saw a couple earlier, but like it's not a major theme. It's not like this, like we had more cats in Foundations. This kind of seems like a fun card to go into a cats deck, which I don't think we're going to really have in the set. So, yeah, it's a B. Like, it spits out a bunch of tokens, but, you know, it could also just do nothing. So, yeah, B for Basri. Voyager Glide Car is a single white for a 2/3 artifact vehicle. It says, when this vehicle enters, scry 1. And then you can tap 3 other untapped creatures you control until on a turn this vehicle becomes an artifact creature and gains flying, and then you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it has crew for 1. Okay, this card wants you to go wide. This reminds me of that one card from, what is it, Ixalan? The last time we were there, where you like tap a bunch of untapped creatures and artifacts, and then you get to give it a bunch of counters and scry, and then it can fly eventually. This card flies immediately. It's a 3/4 when you do it for the first time. Like, you could also do it at instant speed, so you get to keep all your creatures up, then tap them to do this. This card's awesome. Like, this is a B+. It's definitely not a bomb, because I want to have more tokens around. But, like, I like this a lot. This goes really well with Basri, but I like this a lot. Yeah, sick. Like, the fact you can do this on your opponent's turn, awesome. Just start building this guy up. It can also just give you extra speed whenever you need it. Be like, all right, let's just attack. Also, crew 1? I don't know. I could go on, but I would like to activate the actual ability of it, because that's where it actually gets flying. Crewing it just as a 2/3 doesn't seem very good. But being able to give it flying and a +1/+1 counter on it, yes. All right. Next card is Bulwark Ox, which is 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature ox mount. It says, whenever this creature attacks while saddled, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Okay, so not just this one, but any creature. Then it says, sacrifice this creature. Creatures you control with counters on them gain hexproof and indestructible. All right, and then it has saddle 1. So ideally, you can play this on turn 2 after your 1-drop, which any 1-drop will basically be able to saddle this. Then you get to attack. You can either put the counter on this so you can attack into 2/2s, or you put a counter on the thing that saddled it so you can protect it later, and then just spread counters out around. this could get out of hand. I don't know, the saddle cost is so cheap, and it just has like that selfless spirit ability. Like, you do have to jump through a couple hoops to make it work for you, but the card kind of does it itself. Like, I feel like this is an A minus. I'm pretty happy with being able to do this whole thing. Yeah, I like this card. I would feel super happy first picking this card. Sky Seer's Chariot is 1 and a white for a 3/3 artifact vehicle with flying. And as this vehicle enters, choose a non-land card name. All right, always interesting when we got to choose card names. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name cost 2 more to activate. And it has crew 2 for your 3/3 flying vehicle. Okay, this is kind of something. Ultimately, what you're trying to do, I think what this card wants to do is like, you play it and then you name your opponent's vehicle that's on the battlefield, or maybe the one you saw in like games 1 or 2, and then like you're just taxing them for using their vehicle. So you're kind of like a toll. Like, anytime you want to get in your car, you got to pay some mana. But specifically just that one car, though. The other ones are fine. Just the one. So, yeah, it also works against mounts, too. I think it's kind of interesting, but I'm not obsessed with it. Like, it's a B minus. Like, I'm definitely going to put it in my deck. But it's not crazy. But I do like it. Also, yeah, crew 2 and flying, always nice. Moving on, Perilous Snare, which is 2 and a white for an artifact. Start your engines. All right, here's another Start Your Engines card. It is at rare, of course, though. When this artifact enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until this artifact leaves the battlefield. All right, so this is like a Banishing Light that also starts your engines. But then at max speed, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control as a sorcery for no mana. This is an A. This card's awesome. It affects the board immediately. It gets you started on your engines if you haven't already. And then it has an amazing game-breaking ability at the end. If you like, this is a huge payoff for the max speed decks. Like, yeah. Yes. 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 All right. Guardian Sunmare is 3 white for a 5/5 creature horse mount with Ward 2. It says, whenever this creature attacks while saddled, search your library for a non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And it has a saddle 4. All right. So 5 mana 5/5 Ward 2. That's pretty strong. It's another 5 mana 5/5 that you have to saddle for 4. The ability is really good. Like, this is it's kind of like Sun Titan, but tutor from your deck. You just get to take 3 mana value cards, throw them on the battlefield, like willy-nilly. So it is definitely worth it being like, all right, I can take 2 of these creatures to saddle this because I'm going to replace some of my creatures. That is nice. Also, imagine, it says permanent card, non-land permanent card. So imagine using your Guardian Sunmare to go get your Perilous Snare in combat and get that on the battlefield, exile a thing. Like this is like, that's the reason why we don't have Banishing Light in this set, is because of this card, because that would be so unfair and not fun. But I like this. Like, I'm not obsessed with it. I think there's a little bit of a building cost to it. Is this like a mega bomb? I don't know. I still think that Saddle 4 feels like so much. But the ability is pretty worth it. I do think you need to make sure that you have a low curve for this, but you're probably happy with that anyway. I was gonna say this is a B+, but I kind of like maybe an A- here. Let's give this an A-. I'm gonna switch my grade up a little bit and give a little bit more love to the Sunmare. We need some more horses in Magic, I guess. All right, moving right along, we have Spectacular Pileup, which is 3 white for a sorcery. All creatures and vehicles lose indestructible until end of turn, then destroy all creatures and vehicles. And it has cycling for 2. This card, I like playing really aggressive decks, but board wipes in Limited are extremely powerful, like so powerful. This also has the clause of removing indestructible. This is a god killer, right? This is a 5 mana destroy everything. All the vehicles, all the creatures, like start from scratch basically. And if you are ahead on board most of the time when you draw this in your aggressive decks, or just any deck where you're like, oh sick, all I need is like one more threat and then I can really push through the rest of the damage, and you draw this card and you're like, I don't want to blow up the board right now because I'm winning. You can just cycle it. You just cycle this card, find something else. This is like an A plus. Like this is good. This is very good. This is a very strong card. Just look, so good. Oh man. All right, that's the end of the rares. We're moving on to the mythic rares. So our first mythic rare is Salvation Engine, which is 4 and a white for a 6/10 artifact vehicle. It says other artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. This is a double lord, 5-mana double lord 6/10. It says whenever this creature attacks, return up to 1 target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Yes, the crew cost is 6. I get that the crew cost is gigantic, but this ability is huge. You have to throw so many stinking cards in front of this to like blow up a 6/10 when it gets to attack. Like, it is so worth it to use your whole board to crew this thing to get one of your artifacts back. Like, I know there's going to be so many things we can do with this card. And +2/+2 to all your artifact creatures. All your Thopters are 3/3s. All your Servos are 3/3s. Like, any little dorky guys you have around are huge. This card is really, really cool. 5-mana 6/10. I think it's still an A-, but good card. Like, there are times where it does literally nothing. So, I don't know, it makes me really excited. Maybe, you know what, maybe we said A-. Let's go with B+, okay? It doesn't really do anything when you play it, but the dream is there. It's so exciting. I like this a lot, but I think B+ is where we need to keep it. All right, next mythic is Valor's Flagship. Huge mana cost, 4 white, so 7 mana total for a 7/7 legendary artifact vehicle. It has flying, it has first strike, it has vigilance. Crew 3 for this huge thing. You need 1 pilot to crew this 7/7 flying first strike lifelink. Now, white is a crazy mana cost, and 7 mana for a card that literally does stone nothing when you play it. I mean, that's not good. Like, you don't want to top deck this card late and be like, oh fuck, I don't have any creatures. What am I going to do? Well, luckily, it also has this other ability. So it has a cycling ability for X blue. That's not right. Cycling is X2 and a white. When you cycle this card, create X1/1 colorless pilot creature tokens with this token saddles, mounts, and crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. So that's the thing where obviously we can make pilots for 4 mana. Okay, 4 mana we make 1 pilot draw a card, but instant speed. Now I don't want to let anyone forget that part. Making pilots at instant speed is the most fun combat trick, right? Imagine your board is empty. You have 1 vehicle to the side. It has crew 3 because crew 3 is what we want, right? Your opponent attacks into you. You get to, 4 mana, 5 mana, draw a card, make 1 or 2 pilots, crew your vehicle, block out of nowhere. Like, that's awesome. And then this card's in your graveyard. This is the card you want to tune up, right? You want to tune up this thing because it has cycling. Another one of those decks where you're just like, dump it in the yard, bring it back. That is awesome. I'm going to give this like an A- because that cycling ability, man, the ability to be able to make pilots at instant speed. I'm going to come back to this in another episode or another video, I guess. But I think that that's going to be very powerful. And I mean, maybe I'll be wrong, but I like the block out of nowhere, activate your vehicles at instant speed thing. That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah. All right, this is our last card in white. It's a special guest card. There's only 1 white special guest, and it's Cavalier of Dawn. So all the special guest cards, they're always reprints. There's only 10 of them. They're super, super rare. You barely see them, but you do see them. So we're going to talk about it. Cavalier of Dawn is 2 white, white, white for a 4/6 creature elemental knight. It has vigilance. When this creature enters, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token. And it says when this creature dies, return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. I think this is a really cool inclusion for this whole set, because we're going to have tons of non-land permanents we want to blow up, just like vehicles and just whatever. Obviously, giving them a 3/3, that's a whole thing, because 3/3s are kind of big. So even if you have like a stupid servo or something laying around, maybe you want to make a 3/3. Who knows? We don't know. That's a possibility. But also being able to get back any artifact, even if, well, we could blow up one of our artifacts, make a 3/3, and then when it dies, get our artifact back. That is one thing you can do. But most of the time, we want to be blowing up our opponent's stuff. I think the mana cost on this is really rough. Like, I like the Valor flagship because it's so expensive that you're probably going to be able to have 3 white pips by the time you're at that point of the game. For your 5-drop, 3 white pips is a lot. You'd have to be very heavy white. But there's also the possibility that if you're a pretty heavy white deck, nobody else is going to want this card, so it might come to you. Nobody will pick it up. I don't know. I still think it's quite good. It's just the casting cost that's the hard part. But if you have this card in your deck and you can cast it, this is an A, and you're happy to be able to get this card. First picking it is a little dicey, but you know, if you know early that you're going to be deep white, like, you can pick accordingly. So yeah. Anyway, folks, that is the set review for all the white cards, the white only cards of the set. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel, do all the things that are helpful for YouTube and all the stuff you need, about that. But yeah, thanks for being here. I'm really excited to be doing this set review for Aetherdrift. Yeah, many more videos to come. They should be popping up here and the places that they pop up. And yeah, I will see you again next time.